picture this. You're standing outside BMO Field in Toronto.
Right, yeah.
It is June 26, 2026. The summer air is just, it's absolutely buzzing, right?
Oh, completely.
It's thick with the smell of street food, the sound of drums, and you've got this chaotic, beautiful sea of green, white, and red.
And that's all mixing with the bright yellow and green of the opposing fans.
Exactly. On the surface, you are just watching a World Cup match. But if you take a step back, really look at how people are processing this massive global event, things get incredibly complex.
Because we aren't all watching the same game anymore. I mean, we really aren't.
No, not at all.
We're experiencing these parallel realities of the sport. They're filtered through entirely different and often completely conflicting lenses.
Which is exactly why we've gathered this specific stack of sources for today's deep dive. Our mission today is to really dissect the layered reality of modern football fandom.
Right, because we aren't just looking at the match reports from Senegal's historic clash with Iraq.
Yeah, we're looking at confidential tactical scouting audits taking place right there in the stands.
Plus the incredibly toxic social media reactions happening in real time.
Oh, the social media is wild. And on top of that, we have this curated newsletter mapping out a whole revolution in independent women's football podcasts.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It is. We basically want to figure out how we actually consume football intelligence today. So, let's start on the grass.
The best place to start.
Right. To understand the fan, you have to understand the unpredictable spectacle they are reacting to. And the stakes for this Senegal versus Iraq match, they were sky high.
Monumental stakes. You got Senegal, the Lions of Teranga, entering this game staring down tournament elimination.
Yeah, they'd already lost 3-1 to France. Right?
France, yeah. And then they lost 3-2 to Norway. So they didn't just need a win. They needed a massive goal difference boost to even keep their hopes alive of advancing as a third-place team.
And on the other side, you had Iraq, who were desperately chasing their first ever World Cup point since, 1986?
Since 1986, yeah. And Iraq was not a team anyone can just, walk over.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Under their manager, Graham Arnold, they had shown this incredible tactical discipline.
Against a powerhouse like France, they actually set an Iraqi national team record.
Wait, really? What was the record?
They completed 422 passes.
Wow.
Yeah. They really knew how to hold the ball. So Senegal was facing a deeply organized side, but then, the whistle blows and the tactical whiteboards are just thrown out the window.
Oh, completely thrown out. Senegal comes out totally relentless. Habib Diarra scores in the 4th minute off a deflected Abdoulaye Seck header.
A great early goal.
And then we get the sequence that really defines the match. We hit the 13th minute. Sadio Mane makes this darting run on the edge of the box, and Iraq's Reben Salaka just hauls him down.
Yeah, and after a VAR review, it's a straight red card.
Straight red. So Iraq is down to 10 men for the next 80 minutes. Now, I want to pause right here. Because as a fan, watching on television, it's really easy to just say, well, they lost a man. That's obviously bad.
Right, the casual view.
Yeah, but mechanics-wise, what is actually happening to a deep defensive block when you pull a center back out that early? To me, it feels like a balloon popping at a meticulously planned birthday party. Just instantly ruined.
That's a funny way to put it, but tactically, think of a low block defense more like a load-bearing wall.
Okay, a load-bearing wall.
Yeah. Every player is a critical stud supporting that structure. So when you lose a center back, the spatial geometry basically collapses.
Because the gaps get wider.
Exactly. The gaps between your fullbacks and your remaining center backs widen. And that forces your midfield line to drop deeper just to plug those holes.
Oh, I see.
Which suddenly leaves the wings totally exposed. It is an absolute aerobic nightmare.
I can imagine.
You're essentially asking 9 outfield players to cover the physical surface area of 10. And they're playing against elite athletes. Every single sprint is a little longer.
Right.
Every lateral shift is a little slower. And the fatigue just compounds exponentially in that summer heat.
So it's really less like a balloon popping and more like pulling a critical piece from the bottom row of a Jenga tower.
A very heavy Jenga tower, yeah.
You might still stand for a few minutes, but any lateral pressure is just going to bring the whole thing down.
Exactly. And what's crucial here is Senegal's mentality. You have to remember, Senegal was actually pretty vulnerable coming into this.
Oh, right, the injuries.
Yeah, they were missing their injured first-choice goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy. And they had actually benched their star defender, Kalidou Koulibaly, after a rough outing against Norway.
So a lesser team might have just played it safe?
Precisely. A lesser team might have played conservatively to protect that 1-0 lead. But Senegal was playing for survival via goal differential.
They needed that +2.
Right. They needed a +2 differential, and they basically smelled blood in the water.
And the floodgates completely opened in the second half. I mean, you have Ismail Assar scoring in the 56th minute off a Lamine Camara assist.
Beautiful goal.
And then Pape Guy comes off the bench and scores 2 absolute stunners. A curling left-footed shot at 59 minutes and a thunderous half volley at 71.
Just unbelievable finishing.
And then Iliman Ndiaye seals it in the 82nd minute. Senegal wins 5-0, becoming the first African team to ever score 5 goals in a World Cup match.
The historical output is just staggering. I mean, Sarr becomes Senegal's outright top World Cup scorer with 4 career goals.
Wow.
But the collective dominance is even more impressive. Sarr, Guy, and Ndiaye all recorded a goal and an assist in this match.
That's pretty rare, right?
Extremely rare. The last time 3 players from the same team did that in a World Cup game was Germany's infamous 7-1 win over Brazil back in 2014.
Oh man, that is wild. That game is legendary. And what about Ndiaye's performance specifically? Our sources highlighted him.
Yeah, his stats were unprecedented. He actually became the first substitute in World Cup history to record a goal, an assist, 5 box touches, and 5 completed dribbles in a single game.
Wait, all of that just as a sub?
All as a sub. Bringing a fresh, technically elite dribbler like Ndiaye on against a 10-man defense that has been, chasing shadows for an hour. It's basically a tactical cheat code.
Okay, so that is the historic, sweeping narrative that everyone sees. But here is where our sources take us into a completely different reality.
Right, the micro level.
Yeah. While the casual fan is marveling at the 5-0 spectacle, there is this subculture of professionals consuming this exact same match through an incredibly narrow microscopic lens.
The scouting audits.
Exactly. We have this scouting audit detailing how Chelsea manager Elby Alonso was using this match to evaluate Senegal's Nicolas Jackson.
Because Chelsea owns Jackson, and he's been on loan at Bayern Munich.
Right, and Alonso is watching to see if he can be a decisive penalty box reference point, but I have to push back here, just logically.
Okay, lay it on me.
Isn't Xabi Alonso using a game where the opponent played with 10 men for 80 minutes to evaluate his striker? Isn't that a deeply flawed scouting model? That seems like terrible data.
I get why you'd say that. It sounds totally counterintuitive, but elite scouting isolates behaviors, not context.
What do you mean by behaviors?
Well, Alonso isn't evaluating whether Jackson can score against a depleted Iraqi defense. He is looking at biomechanics.
Biomechanics.
Yeah. A runner relies on momentum, stretching the game in transition. But a reference point relies on leverage.
Leverage. Okay.
Alonso wants to see if Jackson can stand in a crowded penalty area with a 190-pound center back literally pressing into his spine.
Ouch.
Exactly. And then receive a ball fired at his feet, shield it, and laid off cleanly under immense physical pressure.
So it doesn't matter if there are 10 men or 11 men on the pitch for that specific action.
Right. Because if Chelsea wants to build a team that pins opponents deep in their own half, they need a striker who functions as that physical anchor. The scout isn't watching the ball, really. They're watching Jackson's spatial awareness and physical resilience.
Which is fascinating because we see the exact same intense microanalysis happening on the Iraqi side with Ali Al-Hamadi.
Yes, the Ipswich Town player.
Right, he plays in the Premier League. And the scouts were laser-focused on how he translates elite English pressing triggers to his role as Iraq's solo talisman.
And that concept of triggers is key for anyone listening who wants to watch the game a bit deeper.
Yeah, explain triggers, because it's not just running around, right?
No, pressing isn't just running blindly at the player with the ball. It is an incredibly sophisticated system of micro-cues. Al-Hamadi is programmed by his Premier League conditioning.
Like a machine.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He is watching the opposing center back. He's asking himself, did the defender take a slightly heavy touch? Is he receiving the ball on his weaker foot?
Oh, I see.
Is his body shape closed off to his passing options? When Al-Hamadi sees that specific mechanical cue, that is his trigger to initiate the press.
Wow, so he's constantly processing this.
Constantly. He's having to execute this complex software program in his head while physically acting as Iraq's only outlet, shielding long clearances in that blistering summer heat.
That sounds exhausting. Okay, so we have scouts analyzing body orientation and pressing triggers, and then we turn to our next source.
Social media.
Social media. You have fans on X reacting to this match in real time, and it genuinely gave me whiplash reading this.
It's a completely different universe.
It really is. Senegal secures their biggest World Cup win ever, 5-0, and a massive chunk of the online discourse was labeling Sadio Mane a flop, a burden and saying he's just washed.
Yeah.
Why? Because he had 0 goals and 1 assist in the tournament so far. He missed a big chance in this game, and he hadn't scored in 3 consecutive matches.
It's so short-sighted.
Right. Isn't this like complaining that the foundation of a house is totally useless just because it doesn't have a crystal chandelier? The man literally drew the red card that won them the game.
Your frustration is completely validated by the data, but it perfectly illustrates the crisis of modern football intelligence.
Oh, so.
We are living in an era defined by fantasy footballification.
Fantasy footballification. I like that word.
Yeah, there is this pervasive, obsessive focus on basic stat lines, goals and assists. If a player doesn't produce those specific numbers, a vocal subset of the internet just deems them a failure.
Right.
But this completely ignores the concept of tactical utility, or what we call in scouting, gravity.
Gravity. Okay, so Maine had a 72% passing accuracy and delivered 4 key passes in the match. But you're saying it's more about the invisible work.
Exactly, the gravity. Mane pulls 2 defenders with him simply by existing in the half space.
Just by standing there.
Just by being dangerous.
Yeah.
That invisible tether creates a 5-yard vacuum for a player like Pape Guy to step into and curl a shot into the net.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mane's movement forced Salaka into a desperate tackle that resulted in the red card. He structurally broke the opponent.
But none of that shows up on a stat sheet.
Right. Structural damage inflicted or defenders dragged out of position do not show up in the standard box score. So the online discourse degrades into this toxic, reactionary echo chamber that is just fundamentally disconnected from the reality of the sport.
If you are listening to this right now and you've ever felt totally exhausted by your own social media timeline after your team plays, you know exactly how suffocating that disconnect feels.
Like drain.
It makes you want to log off forever. So let's actually do that. Let's step out of the digital mud and look at how fans are consuming the game in the physical world.
The stadium experience?
Yeah. Think about the last time you watched your team in a crowded public square. The atmosphere around BMO Field in Toronto was electric.
Unbelievable energy.
Our reports highlight these beautiful stories of diverse diasporas coming together. You have Salar Abdul Baki, whose father flew all the way from Dubai just to watch the World Cup by his side.
And Mamadou Ba, who drove 12 hours straight from Quebec City with his brothers just to support Senegal.
There is a profound sociology to the host city, isn't there?
Absolutely. One observer noted the sight of Iraqi fans proudly wearing their national colors, flying their flags in the streets of North America, completely without fear.
Which is huge.
It is. For a diaspora that has faced decades of geopolitical turmoil, a football match becomes a rare, incredibly powerful safe harbor for cultural pride.
It really transcends the 90 minutes entirely, and you saw it impacting the local economy, too.
Oh, the restaurants and bars.
Yeah. Traditional footballing nations like Italy didn't even qualify for this tournament, yet local Toronto businesses like Café Diplomatico were absolutely packed.
Because of the vibe.
The owner noted that the surges were massive simply because the physical gathering draws people in. A sports fan wants to be around other sports fans.
Exactly. While the internet fractures fans into isolated factions arguing over Nicholas Jackson's expected goals, the physical space of the city creates a temporary global village.
A global village. I love that.
You are shoulder to shoulder with strangers, united by a shared emotional rhythm. It anchors the fandom in reality.
Although, some people wanted to alter that reality to get just a little bit closer to the action.
Oh, the drones.
Yes. Did you catch the Toronto police report in our stack?
I did. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
They reported 20 arrests around the World Cup events, which honestly is remarkably peaceful for a crowd that size. But 17 of those charges were for people illegally flying drones near the stadiums.
Literally violating Canadian aviation regulations to get a better view.
I find this so fascinating. It's like hacking the stadium security cameras because your front row seat just isn't enough. They're like modern-day Icaruses flying too close to the action and ending up in legal trouble. Why are we so obsessed with gaining proprietary access to the event?
It represents the modern fan's hunger for total control over their consumption.
Total control, yeah.
The traditional broadcast feed just isn't enough anymore for some people. They want the tactical aerial view. They want to own a piece of the spectacle that literally no one else has.
Even if it means getting arrested.
Right. It is an extreme, albeit highly illegal, manifestation of wanting to understand the game from a higher vantage point.
Which brings us perfectly to our final source and the final layer of how we consume the sport today.
The tactical podcasts.
Yes. If social media is the toxic, shouting basement of fandom and the stadium is the joyful, welcoming living room, where is the library?
It's a good question.
Where do fans go for thoughtful, intelligent conversation that actually respects their time?
They go to independent podcasts, and specifically, we're witnessing a complete revolution in the women's football media landscape.
It's incredible. We have this fantastic Substack newsletter by Emma Tobiasen that maps out this entire ecosystem.
She did a great job breaking it down.
She really did. For years, mainstream sports television has completely failed to provide deep, rigorous tactical analysis for the women's game. They treat it like a novelty.
Which is so frustrating for the fan.
Exactly. So the fans and the players just bypassed the gatekeepers and built the infrastructure themselves. I look at this podcast ecosystem like a network of speakeasies for football nerds.
A speakeasy, yeah.
It's this secret, high-quality club you retreat to when you are exhausted by the manufactured hot takes on daytime TV.
The demand for high-level tactical discourse is massive right now, and these independent creators are filling the void perfectly.
Tobiasen highlights an incredible roster. In North America, you have shows like Attacking Third, covering the NWSL and the U.S. national team.
Yeah, that's a staple.
And you have She Scores Bangers, which provides unmatched coverage of the Canadian game with fresh, actual tactical breakdowns.
And then in Europe, podcasts like Counterpressed and Upfront cover the Women's Super League with a deeply knowledgeable, chatty vibe.
Right. And then you have Behind the Goals, focusing on the Scottish game.
Hosted by active Scottish internationals Rachel Corsie and Leanne Crichton, which really is the absolute core of this movement.
The fact that they're active players.
It is the defining feature. This media is player-led. You have Sam Mewis running the women's game, Kristen Press and Tobin Heath doing the recap show.
Yeah.
Active players like Ruisha Littlejohn and Ella Toon showing up completely unvarnished. What happens when the players themselves take over the microphone?
It changes everything.
It fundamentally changes how the audience watches the sport. Mainstream TV often talks down to viewers. These player-led podcasts are actively raising the football IQ of the entire fandom.
How exactly do they do that mechanically? Like, what's the difference?
They explain the tactical why. Instead of just reacting to a goal and yelling about passion, a player host will explain the specific midfield rotation that created the passing lane.
Oh, that makes sense.
They translate the microcues we talked about earlier with Al-Hamadi. They humanize the athletes while simultaneously elevating the tactical literacy of the listener. They prove that you can be fiercely passionate without being toxic.
And the formats are pushing boundaries, too. It's not just match recaps. They are doing serious narrative journalism. Tobiasen points out a French football scandal, which is a deep dive into the Shakir Hamraoui and Aminata Diallo case.
That's a wild story.
And Longshot, Payback, which traces the incredible life journey of American footballer Jessica McDonald from a difficult childhood all the way to the fight for equal pay.
They are treating the sport with the journalistic rigor and narrative weight that it really deserves. It is a complete paradigm shift in sports media.
It really feels like a battle for football intelligence, and the independent creators are finally winning.
They are.
Let's zoom back out and look at the terrain we've covered today. We started in the raw emotion of BMO Field, breaking down the mechanics of how a 10-man defensive block collapses, allowing Senegal to secure a historic 5-0 knockout-saving victory over Iraq.
Then we examined the microscopic lens of the tactical scout, exploring how Xabi Alonso evaluates penalty box leverage.
Right.
And we contrasted that with the fantasy footballification of social media, where fans completely missed the vital tactical gravity of Sadio Mane.
We looked at the physical reality of the host city, where diverse diasporas turn streets into safe harbors of cultural pride.
While dodging a few illegal drones, of course.
Of course. And finally, we explore the intellectual sanctuary of women's football podcasts, where player-led media is establishing a completely new standard for nuanced, respectful analysis.
It is a massive, incredibly complicated ecosystem.
It is. Before we wrap up this session, I know you always have one last thing for us to chew on. Building off these sources, what is the final takeaway?
Well, if player-led podcasts in the women's game are currently setting the new gold standard for tactical analysis,
Yeah.
it raises a highly provocative question about the men's game. How long will it be until we see active men's players dropping their heavily PR-managed personas to analyze their own World Cup matches on a microphone while the tournament is still happening?
Oh, wow.
Imagine Sadio Mane jumping on a podcast the morning after this 5-0 win to explain, in his own words, exactly why he made that run to break the Iraqi defense.
That would instantly shatter the echo chambers and change how we consume the sport forever. It's an incredible thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking past the scoreboard, and we'll catch you next time.